That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I'm Stjepan. No one's joined me today. I'm doing a review on my own today. So I've only got one book to talk about tonight, and I'm pretty much going to get right into it. I was a little strapped for cash this week. Adulting is fun. But literally I've been waiting like 3 years for this to come out, and so I definitely wasn't going to miss a chance to talk about it on its first week. I'll be buying every issue of this. I will be buying the hardcover when it comes out. Let me move some stuff. I'm a professional reviewer, as we've all discussed in the past. So yeah, Harleen by Sejic. I've been, as I said, waiting for this for a long time. I've followed Stjepan Sejic on DeviantArt and Twitter for a number of years now, and I saw this comic, his initial ideas for this comic pop up on his DeviantArt. I wanted to pull it up. I think he may have had to delete them, probably like a copyright thing or something, because I'm damn sure I favorited them. So yeah, years ago on DeviantArt, he posted these purely black and white kind of like exercises in plotting. He's like, oh, it's only fan work. I'm just doing it to experiment with some stuff. I'm doing it to exercise some stuff. And I was like, he's got to be fucking lying. He's lying out his teeth. There's no way that this is not something that he's trying to pitch. And it seemed like maybe I was wrong, because years go by and really nothing comes of it, but every so often he posts a little extra, and I'm like, maybe he's just doing it for the exposure, trying to ride that wave. But then he starts talking about how he's got to pitch in with DC, and he's waiting on approval for his pitch to DC, and he's not telling anyone what it is, and then finally, just like a couple months ago, honestly, this gets announced, and we already have issue 1. Black Label is cracking me up because we've had Black Label for over a year now, and we've gotten 2 books out of it, and it's ridiculous. So multiple books that were announced at launch have still not come out. This, which was announced just a couple months ago, here we go. Issue 1, 2, 3. It's going to be back to back to back. Super excited. So there's some background on kind of my history in regards to this book. And let me just say, it absolutely 110% did not disappoint. I adored this from start to finish. Harley Quinn is a really interesting character for me, because I'm a big Joker fan, and I really like a lot about Harley Quinn, but she's one of those characters who I'm of the opinion that no one's ever really nailed. And I include Paul Dini in that. I'm going to be honest. I watched her in the animated series, and she's, fun and goofy there, and it's enjoyable. But there's not much, deep character in the animated series. She's more of a caricature. She's more of a fun little gag. She's not got a lot of depth to her in the animated series. And so you kind of spin out and you go over to comics. She was introduced in mainline DC continuity in the No Man's Land event. And God, putting her on page with Joker, where he's literally a serial killer and he murders someone every other day, just really changed the dynamic of their characters. Because, yeah, the animated series Joker, he's a bad guy, but he could never, kill anybody on screen, so it was kind of fine for him to have this, goofy sidekick. But when you put Harley next to a guy that just murders people left and right, and in really grotesque ways, it kind of changes things. It makes Harley not this oh, this poor girl, oh, she's so caught up with him, or lovable idiot kind of thing. It changes her to just being very complicit with like evil. And so writers in the comics have had just a really hard time nailing her down over the years, and really getting good stories. And like really, there's only a handful of stories, in my opinion, that are good stories for Harley Quinn in comics. But she's a character just rife with so much potential. The idea that the Joker took his psychiatrist and made her just this puppy dog that just falls from everywhere, does whatever he says, and just undeniably in love with him. Just twisted her brain all around. Chef's kiss. And so I've just really been wanting someone to do it, but no one ever has. I remember I read every issue of Harley's original series when she got her own book in DC, and this is when she was like trying to be a sidekick to Two-Face and just would go left and right, and it was just directionless. No one had any idea. But as stuff started to like really go into her background, there were things that just every turn, things I didn't like, things I disagreed with, and Sejic seems to take a lot of those same concepts, and I can't help but feel like a connection to him, like we're two people just reading the same things and having the same takeaways, where it's like, that's kind of there, but so like one really good example of that is, hey, what are the chances that I opened right up to the page? We get this awesome page where Joker, in Harley and Joker's first meeting, points a gun at her, and her whole life flashes before her eyes. And there's this really important scene here where she's caught sleeping with a professor. And the thing is, that was in the original Harley Quinn series, where Harley is, she's going to school for psychiatry, but she's not very good. She's not a very good student. And so, like, there's a scene where it's heavily implied, they don't show it, it was heavily implied that she slept her way through college. That's how she got good grades. And so, what's interesting about this scene, twice. What's interesting about this scene is the conversation going on with this professor that she ends up sleeping with. Miss Quinzel, your grades are in the top percentile. I don't understand why you keep asking me for my help. This stuff should be simple for you. It is. It's just, I like spending time with you. So it's this idea that she wasn't really attracted to boys her own age because they're so immature. She was attracted to older men. She was attracted to people who were more mature. And that's why she slept with the professor. Not because she needed it, but because it was something that interested her. And I thought that was such good. I loved it. I love that it's a slight little tweak to what's been established for the character, and it fixes so much. Because one of my problems I've always had with the way people portray Harley Quinn in the comics, in particular Harleen Quinzel, is they always make her to be a complete ditz. And I guess I can kind of see some of where that characterization comes from, given that she's, a bit ditzy, a bit of a fool, Harlequin, in her persona. So, like, they kind of, I guess, extend that out to Harleen. But the problem when you do that, the problem when you make Harley Quinn, or when you make Harleen Quinzel a bimbo that slept her way through college, and then she worked her way up the ladder and got to do sessions, and therapy sessions with the Joker, and the Joker, turns it on her and twists her into this warped version of himself. it undermines the punch, you know? It really takes the kick out of it, because if Harley's just not really a psychologist, not really someone who deserves to be a psychologist, she's just this bimbo, then the Joker manipulating her, he didn't manipulate a psychologist into going crazy, he manipulated a bimbo into going crazy. It undermines the factor there. It undermines the creepiness. It undermines the scariness of the Joker, in my opinion. But when you make Harleen Quinzel an accomplished young psychiatrist like this does, a person who's really like going to make an impact, going to make waves in the industry, and he takes that and rips her mind apart. That's what makes the Joker scary. That's what makes him fascinating. That's the kind of stuff that I really do miss in the characterization of Harley Quinn, and that's the kind of stuff that this book gets. So Sejic just does a great job of building this world and tackling stuff. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Sejic is, of course, a writer-artist. And just, wow. The art in this. I mean, this is your pretty typical Batman fighting the Joker bullshit. But, like, god damn, is Sejic good. The kinds of imagery that he shows off here. And, like, what's really impressive is we have someone who is a writer-artist, and they're great at both. So he's able to do stuff like everyone likes their references to the Batman movies and stuff. Those are always fun when you read them in a Batman comic, and they don't get too overblown. This has them, but it pays them off in really, really interesting ways. So the whole story is narrated by Harleen post her journey. This is all looking back. My story is the one where the girl dances with the devil and he takes her with him on a long road to hell. And so she says dances with the devil, and we get this panel of Joker and Harley dancing in the moonlight. And I'm like, oh my god, hey kids, you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? Ah, it's so good! That is such a cool way to pay that off. Like, oh man, I don't want to give like other writers, Batman writers or stuff like guff, but I don't think that someone who is just a writer would think to pay it off that way, would think to have the line and then tell the artist to pay it off. I think too many writers would feel not confident enough to pay off the line just in imagery, to sow the seed for half the line and then pay the rest of it off in imagery. But Stjepan does. He's got that dual wielding kind of thing, and so he's able to pay it off. There's also a lot of great foreshadowing, sometimes literally with shadows. That I thought was pretty cool. There's just a lot going on in here artistically. Like, Sejic's style is just absolutely beautiful and breathtaking. Like, even the mundane looks great, in my opinion. And he's got this really great sense of visual timing and uses it to great effect for comedy. I really like this scene where Joker's men are surrounded by, smoke bombs that Batman's laid down, and we just get this great little moment. And what I love about this is the gag works perfectly in just the visual. You don't even need Joker's line here, but I'll see if I can read it for you anyway. Hey, Bat, you got us blinded. Well, how's this for echolocation? Make some noise, boys. That's it. Smoke him. Ah, fine. One-on-one, then. I had every intention of painting the town red tonight. Might as well do it with your blood. It's so over the top and ridiculous dialogue, but it fits because it's the Joker. But just the timing of that scene of the Batman taking out the thugs, and to have it all just from that still shot is so good. And then there's just, the same page, really. There's just other moments that are great. Joker getting slammed into this, and Harley like, oh my god. And then, he gives her a look, and grappling hook just, it's it's such a great visual gag right there. Just we don't see the grappling hook, we don't see anything. It just happens, and that's so funny. One thing Sejic is absolutely fantastic at is facial expressions, and the Joker's facial expression tells you everything you need there. I think again, it's hard not to. It's hard to say if it would be this way, but I feel like if this was just a script that a writer turned into an artist, they'd have a hard time not including some kind of speech bubble there or something to say, oh, like some kind of reaction there to make you hold on it longer. And I feel Sejic does so much with just the visual without having to include more dialogue or anything. And so he's got this great sense of just comedic timing, and I just... Again, Sejic does fan art a lot, which is really funny to me, since he's, professional industry artist and he still does fan art for fun. But you can really get the sense as you look at some of these images that Sejic is a fan. And he's been kind of, living with this stuff, growing with it for a long time. This is another great panel. He also does, I think, a really good job to talk more about his writing of how to put this, of continuing a metaphor in a really strong way. Harleen's got a lot of narration that I really, really like, and he does just a very good job of paying off that narration with a visual before he transitions, or just stringing together metaphors and making them work. It was a comforting thought, the stars watching over me. I was a 30-year-old psychiatrist, single, one friend, no pets. My family was 6 states away. And I like the idea of stars having my back, because that would mean at least someone did. Unfortunately, that was pure wishful thinking. Still, Chandra was right about one thing. At least I was building my road to hell one good intention at a time. I didn't even see it happening. Then again, that's the thing with road building. You get a little tunnel visioned. You tend to keep your eyes to the ground so much that by the time you're at the gates of hell, you don't even realize it. Not even when you can feel the flames. Not even when you can smell the smoke. Not even when the devil himself comes to greet you. And again, that's the panel you get when the devil himself comes to greet you. I love this because she talks about road building and she's walking down the road and then feel the flames, smell the smoke. It's really good visual payoffs, but I love the way that whole metaphor worked there. It's like, oh, you're building, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and she literally talks about road building, of like keeping your eyes on the ground, of tunnel vision. Those are really good metaphorical connections to keep it going. There's this thing in writing called a dead metaphor, where it's like, you have a metaphor and then you don't continue it off of anything. It's just alone and dies. Her hair was like the grass blowing in the wind, like a flag caught in the breeze. No, shit, that's actually not a dead metaphor, because then the metaphors win. But you get what I'm saying. To have a series of metaphors talk about a specific characteristic or something, and to have them be all completely unrelated. A lot of bad rap songs have dead metaphors, and Sejic doesn't do it. That's such a good chain to connect them all together. I was really, really impressed with that. So again, the more I read of this, the more and more I liked it. I could just go on about this book for days, man. I really just want to encourage everyone to go out and get it. You may want to consider trade waiting, but I wouldn't suggest it. I thought one thing I really liked about this is it's all one chapter and it reads really well together. there's the first chapter here really does feel like a complete story in a number of ways. It does feel like a natural progression, and it reaches a very natural ending. She spends probably the last third of the book interviewing and working at Arkham, and yet she doesn't talk to the Joker. She's had this traumatic experience with the Joker. She doesn't want anything to do with him. He's not going to be that important to her research. She's going to focus on the other inmates. All of those panels were great, by the way. I particularly love her interaction with Poison Ivy. I thought it was fun. But she's building this career. She's not even going to focus on the Joker. But then everything keeps... she realizes she's avoiding. She's having these nightmares about him. There's just so much going on. And eventually, she just decides, you know what? No, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to run from it anymore, especially after Harvey Dent tries to confront her about something. Cool panel here. Harvey Dent is going to be, I guess, the villain of the book or something. It's kind of funny. All of our big words and moralizing, and yet within 5 months we would both become murderers. Thank you, Sejic. I'm so happy that Harley's actually going to kill someone. Which I know sounds weird, but I think that's a really important detail to her character. I don't like the idea of Harley Quinn being perfectly innocent. I have no problem with Harley Quinn getting redemption. I have no problem with Harley Quinn becoming a better person through her trauma. I think that is a really interesting character arc for her, but I really do feel like she needs to get to the bottom, and doing something like committing a murder is a really good example of that, especially if it's for the Joker. So anyway, like the whole book's kind of like leading up to them interacting, and really they've got 2 interactions before this final one. Once pretty early on, when he holds her at gunpoint, and then Batman comes in and saves the day. Once again, briefly, but it's not even like they talk. They're just in the same room as she starts working at Arkham, and he's being wheeled in, and they both come to Arkham on the same day, which I thought was really cool visual parallel. There's really neat panel work here. Look, they start to share panels, and then it's panel of him, panel of her, panel of him, panel of her, panel of him, panel of her, panel of him, panel of her. I think that's good shit, man. So like they get an interaction, but not really. It's just him talking to the other staff, and he like looks at her. So it's not even quite there. But then, so it's just this, you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and so much of the book is just about the Joker, which is exactly how I feel like a Harley Quinn story should be, which might be unfair of me, but I'm legit of the opinion that the Joker should always be the Wizard of Oz to Harley's Dorothy. The whole story doesn't have to involve him necessarily, but he's got to be connected in some way. He's got to be a force in it in some way, shape, or form. And I could be wrong on that, but I've yet to read a great Harley Quinn story that is not connected to the Joker in some way, shape, or form. Any Harley fans want to give me a recommendation? I may be inclined to check it out. Fair warning, I'm probably not going to read it if it's Amanda Connor. No offense, just do not care for that take on the character. But anyway, so like the whole book really does lead up to it, and then we finally get them interacting again for their first, therapy session, first interview together. And what's great about it is we get bits. We get a little bit of the tete-a-tete. And we get a little bit of Joker doing his whole philosophizing thing. But then, as it's really about to begin, it's the end of the book. and it's such a good ending. I really do love the end, too. Please, Doctor, call me J. Very well, Mr. J. Stephen Sejic, if you're watching, did a great fucking job. I absolutely 110% cannot wait to see where else you take this story. And if DC has any idea what they're doing, they will just let you tell this story for as long as you want to. Everyone, that's going to do it for this episode of Comic Reviews. Like I said off the top, kind of cash strapped this week, but been waiting on this book for so long that I did not want to wait any longer, and I wanted to make sure I talked about it this week. So went out, put $8 on the credit card, just to make sure I got it. In any case, thanks very much for watching. Until next time, bye!